Right, guys, hey, Melissa here. I just finished cleaning at an account. Very interesting situation that I will talk about maybe next time. Yeah, another time because I got something else on my mind. So, talking to you all like friends. My channel is about building a family. That's what it's about. It starts with being pro-life. It starts with the mindset that children are a blessing. I had a truck go by. Children are a blessing. We should have a mindset that life is valuable. You know, the older I get, the more I'm like, life is really a gift. It truly is. It's a gift that is not owed to us, and it should be beautiful. So, I am very happy with my life. I remember going through my teen years and having so much happen, and you just wonder, am I ever going to get through this kind of thing? So pro-life and then pro-family. Okay, so I am really into building family, and you can't be family oriented without being pro-life. You really can't. It's a black and white issue. So as we build family, what are the things that help us build, and what are the things that destroy families? So I was talking to a friend recently who was telling me that, her son was in jail, and, the grandparents, the dog had to go to the pound. So the grandson was begging his grandparents to keep the dog. And so now she's going over to take the dog out of the pound. But I'm like, oh yeah, grandparents usually, spoil their kids rotten. She's like, not mine, no. And I'm like, what? And she's like, no. She's like, they wouldn't even hug them when they were babies. I'm like thinking, that is odd to me. That is very odd. Most of the time, grandparents love to hold their kids. They want to be grandparents, on and on it goes. So, but when the grandparent thing gets ugly, whether that's, oh, look at him. He's going to amount to something with favoritism, but he won't. And she was telling me, the favoritism in the family. And I have experienced that, right? So, not me. I was favored. And then one of my kids was favored over the others. And so, it's not really right. And you have to say something. You have to. So, just because you have grandparents doesn't mean they can do whatever they want with the grandkids. So, how do we build family? And this mom was telling me that she was actually paying the fees for the dog to come out of the pound. And I thought, isn't that nice? Isn't that nice? Your son is in jail, and then you are taking care of things. You can still show support for your kids despite what's going on. So I really have a passion to build families. I started this with my family when I had my firstborn, actually right before that, because I had gotten saved right when I was pregnant with him. It wasn't anything deserved. I was in hairdressing school. I met a Christian woman who I thought was off her rocker, but I did notice she was super nice. That's what spoke to me. And I was invited to a Bible study, and I'm like, well, it was a picnic, and all these people started taking their Bibles out, and I'm like, what the heck is going on here? And it was a Bible study, and I didn't understand that. So I'm like, what the heck is a Bible study, right? Never heard of such a thing. So, there were little seeds being thrown out. And then I had gone to a pregnancy center for clothing, went back for a car seat just to be frugal. And I had blurted out the forced abortion as a teen. I didn't understand what abortion was. And they said, God forgives as far as the east to the west. I held on to those words because God's word is very discerning. It cuts like a sword through the truth and the lies, right? And so I held on to that, and I struggled with forgiving myself. And then the long story, I didn't know I had post-traumatic stress disorder. Bonded more with my kids when I nursed. On and on it went. When I home birthed, I knew more about kids. So, and then I worked at my marriage. That was the first thing I worked at after I had my firstborn son. I worked at really changing my life around, and my husband saw it and said, something's different about you. and, you know, he started coming to church and everything. So then you want to build a Christian marriage after that. You're coming out from the world and you're building differently. So not all marriages are equal. There's, you know, worldly marriages, and then there's Christian marriages, and I'm having a hard time seeing because I'm looking toward the light, the sun here. Let me see. Let me go this way. There's Christian marriages. There's, you know, all kinds of marriages, but marriage in general is holy before God in general. So, there goes a van that looks like mine. So, it's important, guys, to start to incorporate Christian values into your marriage. And that is, a man is to love his wife, and she is to respect and honor him. And I just had a couple people make a couple comments, you know, that they think the wife takes everything and leaves him with nothing and no peace. The Bible talks about how when a man finds a wife, he finds a good thing. It doesn't say, well, only if she does this and only if she cooks good and she doesn't burn your toast is she a good wife. It says if you find a wife, you find a good thing. But yet it also talks about in Proverbs, it's better to be on a rooftop than with a very contentious woman. So I think the reason why it's good to find a wife is because a man is not alone. As far as, you know, how everything works, is she really contentious? Is she hard to get along with? The man is the leader, right? He's the leader. So he is the one, for the most part, responsible for loving her. Most of the time, if a wife, because he's the man, he is to lead, protect, provide, and love. Most of the time, if a man loves his wife, he's going to have a wife that is very content with him. Now, my reputation, I've always had very good grades in school. My husband had bad behavior all the time in school. I've always had I've always had a very good work ethic in my jobs. I do go by certain principles, you know, and I, for the most part, am pretty easy to get along with. I'm not like a real kind of wife, right? So even today, I'll talk about this for a minute. My boss said, I'm going to need the keys to an account. I said, okay, be right there. Here you go. And so he said, you know, somebody at this account, you know, we lost an account. We lost the account. And I knew already something was up because he asked for the keys. And I thought, play it cool, Melissa. Be calm. And yeah, so I'm like, oh, that's strange because every time I'm there, so-and-so talks about how well he likes my cleaning. So he goes, well, I'm not saying it's your cleaning. I'm not saying it's anything like that. It's just we lost the account, and I thought I was dealing with the owner, and I wasn't dealing with the owner. It was someone else I was dealing with, and I'm like, well, this is what usually happens at the account. So when you have a cleaning business, you want to have some kind of feedback so that you can fix it. He's like, I don't know what it is, but there was no communication, and they should have at least let us know so we can fix it. And I'm like, yeah, you know, and a company can also send out surveys and say, hey, how are we doing? Are you liking this? And what's going on here? So it is a two-way street communication, but usually the company is the one responsible for making sure everything's right, and the customer is responsible for saying something if there's a problem. So anyways, you know, I don't even have a criminal record. I have nothing. So I'm not like, you know, and I'm not trying to compare, but there are a lot of women who are very rotten to men. They are very rotten. And, you know, and sometimes men like that. But the point is, when you have a marriage and you married him and he married you, you should be able to solve things, right? Just like when you bring kids into the world. Why did you have kids if you don't, you know, if you disown them? That makes no sense. If you brought kids into the world, and I know my grandparents did this to my Aunt Mary, why disown, right? You can say, okay, I'm responsible as a mother or a parent for my part. I'm totally responsible, and you are responsible for your part. So usually, though, guys, if you are with your kids and you spend a lot of time with them, as I have, usually that relationship is going to go through the storms of life and still be okay. That's why we invest when they're young, and we we have those bonds when they're young. So when they're older and, life hits hard sometimes, you still have that bond with your kids that will never go away. Should be the same with your husband. You should be able to support him, and he should be able to support you through the storms of life. So that family unit should be like glue, very close. And we're living in a world that wants to tear down family left and right. And so my passion for family has grown even stronger. And you can still be there as a mom if your sons are in jail. If you've got 2 or 3 in jail, you can still be there, and you don't have to feel like, oh, what did I do wrong? Even if you're a rotten mother, which some mothers are, children still deserve to be born. They still deserve to be born. They still deserve to be able to turn their life around when they're older. So that's what I got for now, guys. And leave your comments below. I like them. Tell me what you think a healthy family looks like. Tell me what you think a healthy marriage looks like and the parent-child relationship. I think the more we talk about this, the healthier society can be, the healthier communities will be, and we need to really build not just our homes, but help our neighbors. My dad used to go over and help build a log cabin and stuff for the people at the bow and arrow shoots. Wonderful. Okay, that is a good work. But more importantly than that log cabin is the inside of your home. And it's great to go around and help other people, but you want to build your own home and your family relationships first. And then later in life, you usually start to have more, where you just want to build slow. You don't have to, a lot of men go out there and work, 60 hours a week, neglect their family, and then they're like, wonder what happened when they grow up, and they're like, wow, I don't know how to deal with them now. They're teenagers. I don't know how to deal with them. Build slowly. You don't need all that material stuff. You don't need it. Just build slowly, and then usually things will come out very well.